sensational hosts, Gilsey and Drusilla.
Hello.
Welcome to Moon Moment, the podcast where we discuss the Sailor Moon canon for what we affectionately call Moon Moments.
Moments that we feel exemplify what Sailor Moon stands for and represents. So, now without further ado, let's jump in. We're discussing episodes 76 to 79, and with Rubius blown up, a new Black Clan member comes to take his place, Esmeralda, a name taken from the obsolete French word for emerald, just to make it more difficult for me to pronounce. While she's having her cake and eating it too, Usagi and Mamoru are back together. Just like that. After ripping Usagi's heart out multiple times in this episode alone. Thankfully, Minako's here to give us some much-needed humor as she tries to help her friends overcome a mysterious flu that's going around. Finally, Artemis tries to prove himself by taking on the villain of the week. Sadly, Artemis's episode doesn't come close to matching Luna's Rainbow Crystal episode. Rhett Butler! We miss you!
Rhett Butler!
So.
God, I miss Rhett Butler so much. Oh, I still want a plushie of him. I wonder if anyone will make one for me. Yeah, this episode was very fun, but also I was so confused when they got together. Did they just make up? Is this just an apology thing? And then they kiss? And then it was like, oh, they're together now. That was so quick. What happened? There was barely an apology or anything.
Yeah. That episode was not a great episode, but we are skipping an episode. We have Emerald's introduction. I do have some stuff to talk about in this episode, despite the fact that I have no moon moments for this episode, or any of the episodes.
Giving it away already?
Yeah, sorry. They'll stick around because they don't know if you have any moon moments for this episode.
This is true. Mm-hmm.
So I do want to say, at the beginning of that episode, the Emerald, and I'm probably going to call her Emerald because that's her name in the Deke version, and I'll try to, I'm going to try to say Esmeralda, but we'll see. It'll be another Chibiusa Rimi situation.
Naru.
At the
X.
Molly, yeah.
Molly.
The beginning of this episode, when Usagi and Chibiusa run into Mamoru, and Usagi says, oh, well, you guys go ahead. I've got some things that I'm going to do. I thought, oh my goodness, Usagi's growing up. And this is so mature of her. And I went to write in my notes, Usagi's growing up. I wrote Usagi, and before I could write growing up, she's around the corner being so mad at Chibiusa. And I was like, okay, Usagi, thank you for never change, Usagi, never change.
That actually is a great lead up because that's kind of my mini moment. I didn't want to give this a full moon moment because I was like, Usagi is being Usagi and making a big deal about it and being super jealous. But, maybe I'll give her something for actually being like, okay, Chibiusa can spend a day with Mamoru. I'm going to let them do that and not get in their way. But then I was like, is this me just, Usagi, you should get something? But I don't know, man. I don't know. She's being super jealous and doing that around the corner. But at the same time, she is letting them hang out. I can already see you're just like...
No. I literally said I was so proud of Usagi for being kind of mature. And I think...
Because I feel like that's growth from before, when she would not at all. So I wanted to give her an accolade, but not a whole thing. Because, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's totally mini moon moment worthy. She does... Okay. She's also a lot more insightful in this episode. I mean, we talked about... We gave her a moon moment in the previous episode, or 2 episodes ago, Sailor Moon episodes, not podcast episodes, where she realizes that, you know, there was a time where I would have said, I'm too tired, or I'm hungry, or I don't want to do this.
Right.
And, nope, I gotta go save my friends. And there's a moment in this episode where she's arguing with Chibiusa, and she says, whose fault is it that I'm using food as a crutch? And I thought, oh my god, that's so insightful for Usagi. I mean, maybe Ami said it at one time, and Usagi's just co-opted it as an excuse to eat to her heart's content. But I thought it was such a great, insightful line from Usagi. I mean, this episode, I liked this episode a lot. I mean, it has a lot of fat-shaming lines in it. And, I mean, there's a line where Emerald has been eating cakes, and then one of the girls bumps her because they're trying to get Usagi to stop eating. And she starts to eat again, and she sees that everyone is staring at her. And someone in the crowd says, aren't you embarrassed at all? And my first thought was, what? This is an all-you-can-eat dessert buffet. Woman, get the hell out of here. This whole episode, especially if you consider, this is such a fascinating episode if you consider the fact that Emerald has never had cake before.
Yeah.
It's sort of the same way the Spectre sisters never really had any positive love in their life. Emerald has never had cake, and I know that's a weird comparison to make, but it just shows how the people of the Black Moon Clan have been deprived, and they think that by getting revenge on the Earth or Crystal Tokyo, they'll be fulfilled. They'll no longer feel like they're missing out. And I thought this was another episode that it's like, oh yeah, it's funny, haha, she's eating all of these cakes. And it's actually kind of sad that she didn't realize that just something as simple as sweets existed. And so we try not to curse on this podcast, mostly because I don't want to figure out how to bleep it out. But congratulations, woman in this crowd who says, aren't you embarrassed at all? I'm going to figure out how to bleep this out. You. Okay? Just straight up. You. But
well deserved,
yeah.
too. Yeah, I really liked how they showed how Esmeralda was eating all these cakes and thoroughly enjoying herself, and just so fascinated at how pretty these cakes were and how delicious they tasted. And I know she's a bad guy. I know she's one of the villains for this arc. But this episode made me kind of have a little soft spot for her, because I know you're a bad guy, but I can change you, you know? I can bring you to all these dessert places and show you how great being a human is. It kind of also reminded me about how Naru was going to take Nephrite to pudding, and how he'd never had
chocolate parfaits.
Yes, chocolate parfait. How he'd never had a chocolate parfait and was really looking forward to it. And this running theme of villains really just showing their soft side, their more humanity side. I really like this running theme, and I love how one of the connecting things of it is dessert. So everyone's connecting through dessert, and I'm here for it because I love dessert.
Mm-hmm. Also, it's just fun to see, I don't know, the images of the scouts within desserts is just such a fun thing. I really wished Mars and Moon had got their own specialty desserts and weren't just covered in frosting. But can we talk about the speeches that Tuxedo Common gives? Even if the show is lampshading the right word? The show is lampshading the fact that all of his speeches, quote unquote, are so vague or esoteric for the situation. And just, even Sailor Moon says, I have no idea what he's talking about right now. He doesn't just come out and say it. And it's just, I wonder if it's a respect thing, specifically towards Ami. Because Ami is the smart one. And he knows that Ami will put 2 and 2 together. But he's gonna nudge her along. But then his speeches are too vague, so he does it again. And she still doesn't get it. And then I think he says a third thing. She's like, oh, I get what he's trying to say. So, I don't know. Either that or when they were writing Tuxedo Common's speech for this episode, someone wrote a line. They're like, that doesn't make any sense. Write another one. And they wrote another one. It's like, that doesn't make any sense either. It's like, write another one. That one doesn't make any sense. Look, we don't have time for this. Just have him say all 3, and we'll pick whichever one works best. But then they just threw all 3 in. It is awesome when the show picks fun at Tuxedo Common.
Yes. But I'm glad Ami finally got the wind of it.
Yeah.
Even, once even Usagi was, what are you saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Mm-hmm. The only other thing I have for this episode is that everyone in the restaurant is fine. Everyone is fine with the fact that they apparently passed out. And they didn't pass out. They got turned into frosting sculptures or something like that.
I thought they were like sugar sculptures because didn't it say something about being shattered?
Yeah,
something like
which
that.
I thought if this was an action-oriented anime, because it's really not, but if it was more oriented toward fighting and battles, this would have been a fascinating battle for the scouts to avoid hitting or breaking these people while they're trying to avoid attacks from this monster, and also trying to attack her. So that would have been a really fun and interesting thing to play with. But this is not a shonen anime.
Like, how agile are the Sailor Scouts?
Yeah.
So,
everyone is fine.
Yeah,
like, no one is freaked out about the fact that they got turned into sugar sculptures. You'd think everyone, as soon as they were okay, I guess the cake was just so good. We gotta stay. Like, we paid our $15 to eat all you can eat. I'm eating all I can eat. It doesn't matter that I got turned into a.
The only other thing with this episode was at the end when all of the scouts are gathered with Tuxedo Mask and they meet Esmeralda, and Esmeralda sees Tuxedo Mask and she's like, oh my god, wait, you're hot, you're a hottie, and Tuxedo Mask just yeets out of the frame. He's just like, no.
It's almost that Homer Simpson gif of
him melting into the bushes.
Yeah, fun episode. Let's move on to a not-so-fun episode. I have so few notes for this episode, despite it being very annoying. But
we do see Naru back.
Yeah, we do see Naru. I totally forgot that she was in at least this episode. I have a very clear view of her appearing in an episode at the very end of the season. And I thought that was her only appearance in this season, but it's not. She's here, and so is Yumino. That was really nice to see them, and the cutes. They call them promise rings, but it's not a promise ring in the sense of what we here in the States would think of a promise ring. It's more like a bracelet that they're making.
Yeah, they reminded me of like the cute little friendship bracelets.
I thought about giving Ami and Mako a mini moment in this episode, because they recognize that something is wrong with Usagi. And they say, you can always talk to us if you need someone to talk to. So I thought about giving one to them, but it sort of felt like that's something a friend should do, like a friend duty thing. You should be able to recognize when your friend is down, especially with how high energy Usagi is. When she's not at that level, it should be really easy to figure out that something is wrong. But also, she's literally on the ground crying after Mamoru as he walks away, and Mako and Ami just stand there watching her. So even if I had given that mini moment to them, I probably would have taken it away for not comforting her in that moment.
Yeah, I also consider giving this a mini moon moment, because it's like, oh, that's really cute that they're telling Usagi, you know, we're here for you, we're your friend. But then I was like, y'all couldn't tell off Mamoru and you just stood there and watched this all happen as he was being a prick to Usagi? Nah, I gotta take my mini moon moment away.
This episode did force me to come up with a theory, because it's just so weird the way the scouts have treated this whole Usagi and Mamoru breaking up thing. I came up with this theory that the scouts actually know what's going on. They know about Mamoru's dreams, and they're just doing their best to prop Usagi up. And that's why they're telling her, he must have a reason for this. Don't lose hope. And I went looking on the Sailor Moon interwebs. I'm not the first person to have thought of this. So it is not what I thought was an original fan theory. Sadly, it's not. I also came across, I will put this in the show notes, a pretty good fan fiction. It's pretty short. It's only 8 chapters, but it details the girls having these private talks, basically, amongst themselves about what are we going to do. We know he wouldn't have just broken up with her for no reason, and so it shows each of them trying to get Mamoru to open up, and then at one point it does become violent, and I thought, yes, go Mako. But then what we were saying, I think last episode, or I don't know, at some point we talked about how if there was anyone he could have gone to, it would have been Rei, because Rei understands dreams and premonitions. I don't want to spoil the fanfiction too much, because I think you guys should go read it. It's really short. There are some naughty words, but beyond that,
what's it called?
It's called Operation Heart Angels, and I have a link to it on fanfiction.net that I'll put in the show notes, and I will send it to you, Kelsey. So
yes.
You can dig it. That's the only excuse the scouts have, is if they know what is happening. If Rei knows about this dream of premonition somehow and has told them, and they're just trying to keep Usagi's spirits up until whatever danger is forcing Mamoru to do this has passed. And, I mean, that's really the only excuse they have. But apparently it doesn't matter, because they're back together in this episode, and it's so... all of this build-up, it's so anticlimactic. And even, like I said in my intro, he breaks her heart so many times in this episode alone.
And he says the worst things possible to her.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me so mad. We've definitely talked about this before in past podcast episodes. And there was a moment where Mamoru tells Usagi, oh, you're weak, that's why I don't like you. And that was at a moment when Usagi was feeling she shouldn't even be a Sailor Scout. How could she be a Sailor Scout? And I was just thinking to myself, there was barely an apology, there was barely anything. How do you just forget about that? How do you just forget about someone nitpicking you while you are at your lowest and throwing the worst possible insults that you could to this person? I don't know about any of our viewers out there, but if it were me, I would need more than just an almost apology.
I think that's the key here. There is no apology. It's just, it's sort of understood by, I guess, Usagi that Mamoru did all that stuff because he was worried about me. So I don't need an apology because he was acting in my best interest. And it's like, no. That's not how it works. Even after she knows about the premonition, she goes to him and tries to talk to him about it. And I don't agree with a lot of what she says here. I think it's very dramatic, and I think it has a lot to do with, I mean, the way the show has portrayed them both, but also the fact that she's a 14-year-old girl. Like, I don't care if the world is destroyed. I just want to be with you. I think we could give half, maybe a quarter of a brownie point to Mamoru, because he knows that Usagi isn't thinking rationally. But we've also, interestingly, we also talked about this in a past episode. If he had just told Usagi, if something happens to you, how do you think I would feel? And he comes close to saying something like that in this episode, but it's not as clear cut as the statement that I just said was. So, yeah, even after she knows about it, it just, I don't know, this... and the fact that you weren't even sure whether they were together at the end or it was just a momentary...
I'm glad you're alive. I know you're glad you're okay. I still want to be with you, but I know we can't be. I thought that was what it was going to be.
I think it would have been better to have the episode where she is like infested with the monster and Tuxedo Common has to come and like kiss her to wake her up. I think that would have been a better episode to have them get back together on, because it would have, it just wouldn't have felt so sort of jarring to me.
Right.
That, and this episode felt jarring.
And even the villain that they faced this episode, I didn't think was as formidable as the one where Usagi was infected. Yeah, very anticlimactic.
Also, what do you think his neighbors think?
Oh, because I wrote that in my notes.
There's this young girl who, he says it's late when she comes over. There's this young girl banging on his door, begging and pleading for him. Do you think his neighbors give him the stink eye whenever they see him in the hallways?
And if you think about it, Mamoru's rich, right? So he's in a really nice apartment. Think about his neighbors. Oh my god, what is this guy doing? It's, midnight or something. And it's just this very, very nice high-rise apartment. Not like a random apartment that's just like, oh, okay, I hear this stuff all the time. You hear banging because the walls are so thin. No, it's a very, very nice apartment, and yet they're hearing this poor 14-year-old girl just begging and pleading.
Should we call the police? Like, these girls are way too young. Do you want to move on to the next episode?
Next episode.
The totally not COVID episode.
I was like, is this a prediction? Did Sailor Moon actually predict COVID?
This was another episode that is just fantastic. Not only because it's so funny, but we get to see the girls interacting. I think for a lot of episodes, we may focus on Usagi and maybe Ami or Rei. It's a group of them. They go to a place that has a great sale. Oops, it turns out to be a dark plot. And then they transform. They beat the bad guy. They save the day. But this is an episode where it's all of the scouts. We don't see Ami as much, and we don't see Makoto that much. But we see Minako's disastrous attempts with Rei, and then her going to Usagi's house, and her with Chibiusa. Like, it's so fun to see the girls interact with each other, and we don't really get that enough.
I love how they call each other to warn the other one of Minako. I found it really funny that Rei was the one that was calling Usagi, because Rei and Usagi are always butting heads. And I love that Rei was like, watch out, Minako is about to come and she's going to ruin things. Just looking out for you. Oh, Rei, that's kind of cute. You're so bristly. I love that you're over here calling Usagi to warn her. It was almost a mini moon moment, and then it was like, maybe I'm just being soft at this point.
No, I did think about that, but also what stops me from giving it a mini moon moment is sometimes, even though you really want to help, you need to be able to recognize when you're just going to cause more problems. And Minako, not only destroyed Rei's radio or trashed Mako's house, she also trashed Usagi's house, and you see Usagi's mom say, I have to clean this up later, but I need to get some sleep first. And it's just, we know you mean well, but you're making things so much worse. And so I didn't give it a moon moment, or a mini moon moment, but maybe I'm just cynical. That could also be the case.
I didn't give Minako a mini moon moment. I was thinking of giving Rei and the girls mini moon moment because they were all warning each other, but I ended up not doing it because, again, I think it was going back to, this is being friends and being like, okay, just heads up. One of our other friends is trying to help, but she's not really helping us.
It is nice that Usagi and Minako have that really quiet moment when Usagi wakes up and Usagi says, you're doing this just because I'm a princess. And Minako says, no, it's because you're my friend and I love seeing you so energetic. Like, that is the you that I love, and so I want to make sure that you get better as soon as possible. So I thought that was a very sweet moment.
It was really sweet. It reminded me of a conversation we had in an earlier episode where we were talking about, what if Usagi is questioning her friends and being like, are you friends with me just because I'm a princess, or are you just here because it's convenient? And I thought this was a really nice kind of answer to our speculations on what would have happened if Usagi did pose those questions after D Point. And it's nice to know that even though the girls are basically protecting Princess Serenity, they are also her friends too, so it's not just one thing or another. And this little clear indication of, yeah, you're a princess, but we care for you, and you're not just a princess for us. So I thought that was very nice.
Also, can we talk about Minako's strength? We talk about Mako being super strong. Minako not only jumps from the street level to Usagi's balcony, she also somehow manages to throw a thermometer so hard she breaks a window. I think we're seriously underestimating how strong Minako is.
Well, she was Sailor V, so I'm wondering if she's had the chance to build up a lot of strength because she's been in the Sailor Scout game for a little longer.
And see, I always assumed, my headcanon was that the Scouts are a bit stronger and they are a bit more agile only when they're in their Sailor Scout form. And that's how you see them jumping tall buildings in a single bound. But Usagi couldn't do that. It would be really awesome to see her do those things on her way to school if she's late in the morning. Maybe she wouldn't be
late so much.
See her jump the 9-foot fence of her school after it's closed. Yeah, I just kind of assumed that you only see that stuff, with the exception of Mako just being strong anyway. You only see that stuff when they're in their Sailor Scout form. But here, Minako's just like, yeah, I can do this, whatever. I'm the original Sailor Scout. Also, I do have to shout out the dream sequence that Usagi has. Part of me was thinking it would be funny if... Okay, because so I guess spoiler alert for those of you that don't know where these dreams are coming from. Prince Endymion from the future is sending these dreams back to Mamoru, and I guess somehow Usagi got one. I like to think that he's trying to send one to Usagi again to be like, no, you can't be with Mamoru, you have to break up. And she's just feverish, and it just comes across as like all of this stuff. But I have to shout out the Deke version, because during this dream sequence, as the girls are in her dream, Ami says, why am I floating around in your head? And Lita, aka Mako, follows up with, stop dreaming, I have places to be. So I just loved it's almost fourth wall breaking. I guess it's like dream fourth wall breaking. that they added in. I thought that was very funny. But that's pretty much all I have for this episode. We get to see Sailor Venus being awesome when Esmeralda basically tells her entire plan. She's like, we knew the entire time. I love this because it's also, if you remember, when this actually is a great segue into next episode, when Artemis and Minako are first introduced, they are introduced as battle-hardened, super serious. Artemis especially, like, some of the things he says, like, Usagi can't be the princess because she's just not, she's too klutzy, or she's just too whatever.
Right. She's uncoordinated.
Yeah, and she shouldn't hold on to the crystal because she can't handle the responsibility. Remember, that's how they were introduced. And now we have 2 episodes back to back with Minako being Klutzoid Queen, ruining everything, and Artemis being the butt of every joke. And I'm so curious if any of our listeners want to shoot us an email and kind of explain how this happened, because they're pretty serious in the manga, because they have been doing this for a while, and they do know stuff that, at least in the beginning, the others don't. Because in the manga, Sailor Venus says that she's the Moon Princess when she first shows up, because she's meant to be a body double for the princess. I can't remember what the word is for it specifically. But, yeah, it's so crazy that over the course of the series, Minako and Artemis lose this toughness, I guess. And I don't know if that was a decision on the anime's part, or it just sort of built up. Because you have a couple of episodes where she's tough, and then she's starting to become friends with the scouts, and so she has a little softer edges, and then they're like, hey, let's do this episode where she's super klutzy and funny, and that just sort of becomes the blueprint for the rest of the show. I like Minako's personality, but at the same time, I think they sort of did them dirty, but I don't know. I guess we'll keep an eye on it going forward. But the next episode, our final episode, holy crap, we're only 40 minutes into this recording.
Oh, wow, good job, us.
Yeah. So this is Artemis's, not solo episode, because everyone else shows up too, but his main focus episode. And, yeah, I don't really have much for this episode, except for the fact that I made mention in my notes of the character arc of Minako and Artemis. But also, Usagi's on the ball this episode.
Right.
She's the one that tells Minako, we need to transform. And I've just recalled past episodes where it's Luna saying, Usagi, you need to transform. Or someone else. And then Usagi says, oh, yeah, okay. This is the one, she's telling Minako, we have to transform. Something's going down. She also frees herself when they're all trapped by the collars. She actually frees herself, and she doesn't take the time to free her friends because she knows, I just have to defeat this bad guy. If I use my scepter, she'll be gone, and my friends will be freed. So there's a lot of, I think, quick thinking and just awesomeness on Usagi's part this episode.
I think these batch of episodes, Usagi has really been on the ball, because even in the bracelet episode, Usagi was the one that realized that it was that store in particular that was handing out all these bad dark moon energy things. And I think we see it especially in that point where you brought up where Usagi's like, okay, everyone, we have to transform. And I think it's just really nice how subtly the show has been growing Usagi's character into being a leader. And if I were just watching these without analyzing them, like, I wouldn't have, like, super picked up on it. But because we are, and because this is a podcast show about Sailor Moon, it's very nice to see all these subtle changes that Usagi is going through in order to become the leader of the Sailor Scouts.
Yeah, it is. Looking back at the Cherry Blossom episode of this season, and when Usagi is given a choice of, you can choose to be Sailor Moon or you can choose to be a normal girl. You can't do this wishy-washy stuff anymore. Even after she makes that choice, she still is our normal, typical Usagi. But as we see over the course of, even at the end of An and Ael's arc, I mean, it is Mamoru that she's protecting, but she is literally putting her body between someone and attacks. And I mean, we see her doing that too between Chibiusa and Rubius attacks in the Spectre Sister episode. And her realizing, or I would say, that I just didn't want to do this. That I didn't want to go into a scary place, that I was too tired, or someone else would handle it, but now I have to handle it because I am Sailor Moon. It is such a wonderful arc that she has, and I do kind of wish, I mean, in the episode where we talk about the Cherry Blossom episode, we did mention how we wish it had been more of a clear question of, you can do this or you can do this, you can't have both. And it would have been great if we had seen from that moment a little bit more of this growth, because I feel like we don't get a lot of it until the Spectre Sisters, the Black Moon Clan, really shows up. And maybe there's a reason for that, you know, a production reason, but Usagi's growing up.
Our baby. But yeah, other things that I thought were kind of cute in this episode, I love how there was more of Luna and Artemis's relationship, because we get that, you know, they are kind of the cats that know more about the Moon Kingdom and
they don't know
the lore
anything.
behind
We've established this.
They try to know. But we don't get too many casual interactions between the two, and I really like that there was more of that in this episode. And I love that it shows Luna being this poking fun and teasing kind of, I keep wanting to say person, but she's a cat. So like this teasing cat to Artemis, and Artemis is just this, like, you know, like, I can prove myself, I'm important, I can do this, you know, and he's so dramatic. When Luna comes up and finds him going into this animal rescue, Artemis is like, if I live through this, we can talk again. I was like, you're so dramatic. But yeah, I didn't have any moon moments for this.
Yeah, that scene. Now I'm about to I'm going to send you something. Do you remember when I sent you that Zoocyte cameo?
Yes.
There was another cameo, sort of a cameo thing in this episode. During that scene when Artemis says, if I'm still alive, let us meet again, he trips on a can. That is the can that he trips on.
Oh my gosh!
Why does this random can have Sailor Moon, Chibiusa, and Tuxedo Mask in shadow on the background? Listeners, I will put this in the show notes. The licensing has gone out of control for this.
Now they're even putting Chibiusa on there, and she's not even one of the Sailor Scouts. I really want to know how the people that are printing all of this stuff, who is feeding them all of this information? Are they just taking pictures? Are they following them at this point? What is happening? Are they just plastered all over newspapers?
Is that gonna do it for this episode?
Yeah, I think that's it for this episode. This was a really fun episode. This was a really fun batch of episodes. But yeah, no moon moments except for that one mini moon moment.
This was just some fun episodes. You know, there's nothing wrong with an episode that doesn't have a moon moment. And we had some fun episodes.
So yeah, I guess that's going to do it for this episode. Our next episode will cover episodes 80 through 84. If you want to tell us something we missed, or you think there's another fan theory as to why the girls have been bolstering Usagi and telling Mamoru they'll be together someday, just gotta wait it out. Check out our social media on Twitter and Instagram at MoonMomentPod. And we also have a TikTok. Drusilla is mostly on there, but please find us. Please watch us. We are there at MoonMomentPod as well. Don't forget to check out our website at moonmomentpodcast.com. There you'll find show notes and transcripts of every episode.
Yeah, like Gilsey said, let us know what your moon moment musings are. We'd love to hear from you, and you might just get a shout out. And if you'd like to support the podcast, please rate, review, share, subscribe, anything and everything. It helps Moon Moment stay afloat amidst the vast ocean of podcasts. I'm Drusilla.
And I'm Gilsey. Be sure not to Artemis the next episode.
Oh, I love it. It's so on brand with this episode.
Exactly. I was like, this is perfect for it.
Yeah.
We'll see you, Moon.
Bye.
Bye.